PFDS Hymn.
Ang bayan kong mahal, maglaman sa mga sayaw, bukod tanging pamana ng ninulong may daan. Halina't upagbuhin, dama ng tayong Pilipino, patutulong sa law ng Pilipinas tumaan. Ang bayan kong mahal, malaman sa mga sayaw, bukod tanging pamana ng ninulong ay daan. Halina't upagbuhin, dama ng tayong Pilipino, patutulong sa law ng Pilipinas tumaan. Mabuhay ang PFDS, ang PFDS, ang mabuhay samahan, tagaan, yung katutulong sa law ng Pilipinas.
Before I will introduce our first speaker, I would like to acknowledge everyone who is with us today. So kindly type in the institution where you from in the chat box so that you will be recognized. Okay, so everyone kindly type in the institution where you from. Okay, there's Ma'am Michelle from City Central National High School. Okay, Mark Carabio from CIC Mandaue. Mitzi from Ramon Duterte. Ariel Ababon from Abiliana National School. And there's Jose Ruel Mendoza of Boljoon National High School. Wow. From Toledo City Division, Jam Marqueta. I guess we have 38 participants this morning. From Manatad Elementary School, Ma'am Leonilyn Lazaga. University of Bohol, Milen B. Haspe. Don Sergio Osmeña Arnel Ostea. Ma'am Chanalyn Abergido from Salag National High School, Tabugon District. University of Southern Philippines, Francisco Putot. Banban Elementary School, Sherlyn Veralio. That's from Bugos City Division. Okay, from Punta Princesa, we have Charity May Abing. Nangka National High School, Junrey de la Serna. Gothong High School, Maribel Tampos. Okay, so from Bulaca Community School Elementary, Marian Panilagaw. So welcome everyone. And we have Roslyn Aguilio from Calamba National High School. Wivel Tining from Gothong Memorial National High School. So welcome. Please stay tuned for because we have lined up so much for you guys. Here's the protocol for the webinar. First, participants should see to it that you have registered for this webinar. So I presume you have already registered. Google Meet participants are requested to put their microphones on hold or on mute and their cameras turned off to support our bandwidth or connectivity. Should you have questions or takeaways, kindly post them on the chat box or comment sections. Guidelines for the e-certificates will be given at the end of the seminar. And to give his welcome address and rationale, I am pleased to introduce to you a folk dance enthusiast, adept ed instructor, and the Vice President of the Philippine Folk Dance Society, Cebu Chapter. Please help me welcome Mr. June Oliver Figueroa. Let us all give him a virtual applause.
Salamat pagi. Sawadi ka. Mabuhay. Maayong buntag ka natong tanan. Welcome to the first ever PFDS Cebu Chapter Professional Development Webinar. The COVID-19 pandemic resulted a dramatic impact on the global communities, on people's lives and health, livelihoods, economies, and behavior. For almost 6 months, since the time our place has been under the community quarantine, many of our day-to-day activities were impeded or perhaps called off. Our social interaction and big gatherings were postponed indefinitely, or if not, were cancelled. And unfortunately, two of our sought after events were affected, namely our annual Eco Folk Dance Workshop, which is supposed to be 17th edition, and the 13th edition of the Inter-School Folk Dance Contests. Sadly, they were all not materialized. But the uncertainties in this trying time should not be and will not be hasten our quest for freedom, beauty, truth, and love. Thus, we must stand up and slowly regain our strength with a fresh new hope to survive and live in this new normal. The Presidential Proclamation 241 series of 1993 declared the third week of September as the Linggo ng Kasuotang Pilipino. Since today is the last day of the third week of September, it is but fitting to culminate the week with a reminiscence of our culture, particularly on the costume and dances that our proud forefathers had endowed to us. Hence, this virtual conclave of the special people who passionately love our folk dance is called for. My dear participants, fellow folklorists, I warmly welcome you once again to this professional development webinar brought to you by the hardworking and dedicated men and women of the Philippine Folk Dance Society. Please enjoy.
Thank you so much, Sir Oliver. But before we're going to have our speaker for today, I would just like to remind everyone that if you have questions about the talk, you can type in your questions in the chat box and I would be very glad to read it for you. So for our first speaker for today's webinar, she is the principal of the grade school department in the University of San Jose Recoletos and our very own PFDS Cebu Chapter Auditor, Ms. Jergen D. Orias. Let's give her a virtual applause.
I am given the task to share on the topic keeping the fire and passion for folk dancing alive amidst the challenging times. Let me begin my sharing with just a short quiz on how deep is your knowledge about folk dances. So I have prepared 5 questions and all you have to do is just to encode in the chat box your letter of the choice answer. Okay, are we all set? Let's begin. Which of the Philippine folk dances is known for its distinguished use of bamboo poles accompanied by steps? A. Tinikling, B. Itik-itik, C. Binasuan, D. Maglalatik. Encode your answer now on the chat box. The correct answer is letter A. Tinikling. Question number 2. Which dance tells the story of a Muslim princess, Gandingan, who was caught in the middle of the forest during an earthquake caused by Diwatas? A. Pangalay, B. Kapa Malong-Malong, C. Singkil, D. Gayong-Gayong. Encode your answer now. The correct answer is letter C. Question number 3. Which folk dances that are similar in nature as both dances use drinking glasses to show off the grace, balance, and dexterity of the performers? A. Singkil and tinikling, B. Pandango sa ilaw and binasuan, C. Sakuting and karinyosa, D. Maglalatik and kuratsa. Encode your answer now. The correct answer is letter B. Pandango sa ilaw and binasuan. Question number 4. Which dance is performed in a flirtatious manner with fans and handkerchief to emphasize the dancer's hide and seek movements? A. Salakot, B. Cariñosa, C. Mazorca Mendoreña, D. Paseo de Iloilo. Encode your answer now. The correct answer is letter B. Cariñosa. Question number 5 and our last question. Which dance is commonly performed at formal gathering such as balls in which prominent members of government enjoy and participate? A. Rigodon, B. Lahota Manileña, C. Pandango sa Ilaw, D. Mazorca Buholana. Encode your answer now. The correct answer is Rigodon, letter A. Very good. So I'd like to see a thumbs up sign if you got perfect, if you got 5 points in our short quiz. Very good. So to start with my sharing, I'd like to begin talking about the rudiments of Philippine folk dances. Do we have a beginning? How did we start it? Philippine folk dance mirrors the culture and tradition of the Filipinos. This is one description that we can say how our folk dances started. It mirrors the culture and tradition of the Filipinos. It has also been a source of cultural identity of the people. There is no recorded start to Philippine folk dances. As long as there have been people on the islands, they have been dancing. It is, in fact, impossible to know when exactly dancing became a part of life in the Philippines. We have been known to be a happy people, little achievements, or when we win in a certain contest, in a certain competition, out of joy, we dance. In fact, their mythology is filled with many different gods and goddesses that needed to be placated, implored, or thanked for various natural events like rain and harvest. Many of these festivals still feature ancient folk dances performed in costume of the tribal period. So our folk dances also started when our early ancestors celebrate or give thanks for a very good harvest, or when they would like to ask a favor from their gods and their goddesses. No, when they ask for rain, when they ask for harvest, they perform it. They execute dances in asking for favor to their gods and goddesses. So that is how folk dances started. Okay? So what are the different nature of Philippine folk dance? One is it is an occupational dance wherein it depicts action of a particular occupation. And we have our known dance for this, which is the planting rice. No? Magtanim ay di biro. We also have this dance entitled Mananagat, which is a Cebuano for fishermen, where it depicts fishermen at sea. Dancers in a long line formation mimic women scooping water from the bangka with bamboo shells and men wielding wooden paddles. Okay? Another nature of our dance is a game dance, no? Which is done with play elements. Okay? And a known dance for this is the lubi-lubi. Another nature of our dance is it is a religious or a ceremonial dance, which is associated with religions, vows, and ceremonies. An example for this is the dugso. Think you're familiar with the dugso dance. And of course, another is the pagdiwata. Okay? I don't know if you have danced this one or you have seen this dance already. But these two dances are examples of the nature of our dance. Another nature of our dance is it is a comic dances, no? Wherein it depicts funny movements for entertainment. Okay? An example for this is the kinutan and makungo. We also have another nature of our dance, which is a wedding dance, no? Of course, from the word itself, it is performed during wedding feast, no? An example for this is the pantomina, which was originally a wedding dance from the towns of Bicol, Istandante, and Sorsogon sub-regions. This dance is traditionally performed during wedding festivities by the couple and their visitors. The dance is still popular in the Bicol region even up to this time. Another is the courtship dance, which depicts the art of courtship. No? I have here an example, which is the kuratsa, commonly performed during festivals in Bohol and other Visayan towns. This dance portrays a young, playful couple attempt to get each other's attention. It is performed in a moderate waltz style. We also have these festival dances. Okay. The festival dances suitable for special occasions. I have an example here, which is the Pandango sa Ilaw. Then we also have war dances, which show imagery combat. An example for this is the Idaw. No, this dance sometimes has many names and different versions. Most common is this dance depicts the hunting ritual performed before a tribal war. The tribesmen would go out and look up and watch for the scared Idaw bird, which is said to lead the tribe to victory. Also look at the clothing. Philippines being a very hot climate, plus the use of as little materials as possible, The traditional clothing was not made to cover much of the body. Okay? So these are the nature of the Philippine folk dances.
Let's talk about the diversity of Philippine folk dances. What is unique with our dances? Our dance, we also have this what we call ethnic dances, which are performed by the tribes in the Cordillera Mountains. We have here an example, which is Banga Salidsid. Another form of our dance is that we also have Christian dances, which is found in the rural villages in the lowlands of Luzon. An example for this is the Gusos. We also have our regional dances. This refer to dances particularly in one locality or region. Our example here is the Habanera Botoleña.
We also have our national dances, which refers to those performed all over the country. An example is the tinikling. Okay? Like if we really have visitors, if we have foreign visitors, we really present to them this our national dance, which is the tinikling. Then we also have creative folk dance, which refers to the character dances where choreography uses folk steps and music. Aside from diversity, we also have to know the basis of our Philippine dance, folk dance movements. Where did we get our movements? One is we get it from the European or Western influence. No? Spanish influenced dances, for example, even if Filipinized in terms of hand and body movements, hand props as well as costume and music still reflect almost 400 years of Spanish domination in the Philippines. So an example for this is the cariñosa, no? Which is a word that describes an affectionate, friendly, and lovable women. This dance is performed in flirtatious manner. Dancers make a number of flirtatious movements as they hide behind fans or handkerchief and peek out at one another. The essence of the dance is the courtship between two sweethearts. But of course, if you notice, look at their dress, no? The woman is really covered all her body, okay? And you notice also the chinning up, no? The chin up, which is really our influence to the European or Western countries.
Another basis of our Philippine dance movement is the ritualistic dances. I have here an example, which is the tribe of Tibuli is located in a place where there are vast amount of wildlife, most especially birds. Kadaltaho, also considered as the true dance of the Tibuli, is a story about a flock of sister birds who left to look for food and ended up getting lost. During the journey, one of the sisters injures her leg and is unable to fly with her flock by her side, motivating her and supporting her. She was able to fly again and they were able to get home safely.
We also have nature imitation, okay? Which dances from the mountainous regions would usually capture the movements of birds and dance with reflections of the curved precipice of mountains and rocks. An example here is an itik-itik, which is originated in Surigao, which imitates the different movements of the itik. No, has the different version, but is captivated mostly the Visayans. Also associated with the dance siblay, another mimetic dance from Samar and imitates another bird, the siblay. So our another movements of our dance mostly is based on nature. No, it's imitating nature, birds, animals, trees, and others. We also have coastline dances. I have here an example which is Pangalay Ha Patung, a dance performed by a royal couple balancing on top of a bamboo pole and imitating the movements of a southern boat with colorful sails or the so-called vinta. Okay? Now, why do we dance Philippine folk dances? Of course, aside from uh, it belongs to us, no? It contributes a sense of comfort and belonging. This is ours, no? We don't expect other nationality to learn and to love our dance. Although commonly, if you notice, most foreigners really enjoy and really happy with our dances. It reinforces values. And what are these values? The freedom, our faith, integrity, good education, personal responsibility, a strong ethic, selfless. Okay? So, um, learning our dance somehow allows us to be free because it is ours. It allows us to understand, it allows us to connect the past with the present. It allows us to express our faith, our beliefs, and somehow also it shows our good education in the Philippines. We need to know or we need to learn our own dance because somehow it provides a forum to showcase role models and celebrate the things that really matters in life, which is the family, relationship, no? And of course, we need to learn our own dance because somehow it offers a chance to say thank you. Thank you to our ancestors for this beautiful gift. It's our way of thanking also to God for the many blessings that He has been pouring out in our country. Somehow, it also enables us to showcase the principles of our founding fathers, celebrate diversity, and unite as a country. We vary our dances. Like when you go to Luzon, when you go to Visayas, when you go to to Mindanao, we vary our dances. We celebrate. But still, we know that we belong to one country and that we are all Filipinos. And also, it serves as an avenue for creating lasting memories for our families and friends. Notice nyo, like the kuratsa, no? You look at the dance. I don't know if there are still the young generation still know how to dance this one. I don't know if this dance is being passed on to the next generation. So it creates lasting memories. I'm sure those who have danced the folk dances now when we see them on shows, it made us recall. It made us brings back memories of our childhood. And of course, it offers an excellent context for meaningful pause and reflection. Because somehow, especially if you know the dance, somehow you are being reflected. Wow, the beauty of oneness, the beauty of um, generosity, the beauty of cooperation. Okay? So those are the things that would somehow, offers us or give us, or it is what we get when we try to learn, when we learn our own dances. So amidst the challenging times, how can we keep the fire and the passion for folk dancing alive? We all know that this has been our struggle this time, no? Because when we play music, when we ask the children, the young generation, to dance this, oftentimes you will hear them say, kinaraan, daan, no? But they love more to dance on the K-pop, the Korean dances, the other dances from the other nations. But now, as adults, as educators, we have the responsibility. No, we have the responsibility to pass this beautiful culture of ours to the new generation. So how can we do that? Before, we used to have this folk dance echo workshop, but because of this pandemic, because of this new form of education, we could no longer, we were not able to conduct the echo folk dance workshop because the national also wasn't able to conduct a workshop. So in lieu of that, that is why we have thought to come up with this kind of activity so that somehow we could still motivate you, mentors. We could still encourage you to keep that fire burning within us, to still, there's still way of passing this beautiful culture of ours to the young generation. So allow me to somehow give you some tips on how we can still pass on this culture to them. One is we can now start by propagating documented folk dances. There are varied, no, there are many folk dances in YouTube, in the internet, no, very rich. But of course, we need to be very critical also in getting, presenting, showing some folk dances that somehow really, no, um, really follows or what really the literature says. Okay? The execution, the movements of the hands, even the movements or the executions of the feet. We really need also to be very observant. We really need to know if it really what really was said in the literature. So that's one. You can now start propagating, sharing to them, no, videos. Another, you can, by using Philippine folk dance music as an accompaniment to creative expression of a dance. Perhaps you ask them, uh, after from one subject to another during online classes, you allow them to pause and then you allow them to dance, no, to just move, be moved by the rhythm of the music, and then you will make use of the Philippine folk dance music. Okay, that's one way of keeping the passion for folk dancing. Another is by integrating folk dances in classroom instruction by using its music as icebreaker or perhaps an introduction to a class activity. You can use it as an icebreaker. Okay, to begin with our lesson, to begin with our day, let's follow the dance here, ano, that I'm going to present to you. So, instead of asking them to follow some Zumba dance, no, you can show to them, no, videos of folk dancing and just ask the children to follow the video. Another is by attending seminars or workshop in folk dancing, whether it's about coaching, teaching, and performing. So just like this, no, you encourage your other co-teachers or perhaps your other MAPE teachers to listen, to participate in a webinars, or you yourself, you can organize a webinar. You perhaps would like to give them the literature. You'd like to introduce to them a dance, and then you would like to start with giving the background of the dance. Then you can organize a webinar. You can gather all the children through like this. Another is by encouraging reading of the literature of the folk dance. We have been teaching the children how to dance. Okay? But was there really a time in our lives, no, as a teacher, was there really a time in our lives wherein we really started teaching them the origin, discussing to them what's the dance all about, talking to them the literature itself? I think now this time with our present situation, this is now a very good avenue for us to, let's say you talk about itik-itik, you talk about binasuan, what is it all about? Where did it come from? Okay? So you encourage, no, you can still keep that fire burning about our folk dancing by asking the children to also read the literature of the dance. Okay. Another is by heightening cultural experiences of students by allowing them to participate in dance festivals in their community. So, perhaps there are already communities na medyo maluwag-luwag na, no? Maluwang-luwang na. You can encourage them. Or perhaps you can ask the children to follow, to imitate the dance together with his family members. Okay? So, we need to we need to keep out this folk dancing still alive, no? We may not already execute it, or perhaps kita we can still execute, we can still have a self demonstration and show it to the children. Okay, so let us not get tired, let us not forget that teaching the children our own culture, our own dance, is somehow keeping that life, that Filipino spirit within ourselves. These are my references. So I got my sharing from these people. Thanks to them. Okay. And let me end my sharing with this quotation. Dancing with the feet is one thing, but dancing with the heart is another. We have been teaching our children for how many years? Slide cut hop, sway balance with a point, sway balance with a waltz, right about face, mincing, change step, licking. This time, though we are already contained with our movements, but this time I guess this is now the opportunity for us to let the children understand what this dance is all about. Why is this dance being executed this way? What is the meaning of this dance? So that somehow, with God's will, if we will go back to face, the next time you're going to introduce to them the dance, the children will dance it already this time, not just recalling the steps, memorizing the figures, but somehow they will already dance it from the heart, because somehow during the pandemic, during this new normal, recalling what happened at that time, wherein you as a teacher, you were able to make them understand. You were able to let them know the origin of the dance. Okay? So, let's keep that fire burning. Let's still teach our children our own culture, because it is also our way of thanking God for this beautiful country. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless us always.
Thank you so much for that wonderful talk, Ma'am Jergen. So let's keep the fire burning as what she has said. So now, if you have any questions, you can type them on the chat box, and I'm sure Ma'am Jergen will be pleased to answer them. So if you have questions, kindly type in your questions in the chat box. And then there's one question here. Hello, Mom. Can you send us a copy of your presentation? Yes, we will be very glad to give you a copy of Mom Jergen's presentation. Right, Mom Jergen?
Yes, thank you for answering for in behalf of me, Ma'am Wendell. Thank you so much. Yes, I will be very glad to share with you the slides that I have prepared.
So is there any questions so far?
Thank you so much, Ma'am Abing, for that affirmation. You're welcome, Ma'am Shirlene.
Okay. So I guess can we move now for para continue ta? So at this point, so there's no questions. So we will be giving you a 15-minute health break. So for those who want to make use of the comfort room, you may do so. So I guess everyone was very eager enough to listen to Ma'am Jergen. Nakalimot og go sa comfort room. Or you can make a short stretching. So you stretch your limbs out. So up and down, bend left and right. Or you may take a healthy snacks because it's already 9:45, almost 10. So I guess you're already hungry na. So for those who haven't taken their breakfast, you can make a healthy snacks while waiting. So 15-minute health break starts now. Okay, so that ends our 15-minute health break. So for our second speaker, he is an assistant professor from the University of Cebu Graduate School and Mateas H. Aznar Memorial College, Department of Humanities and Physical Education, a researcher, a contributor of new dances in the National Folk Dance Workshop, Let us all give a virtual applause to Professor Ceasar Amirhassan F. Nimor.
So good morning to everyone. So I was tasked to give you a presentation on choreography of ethnic dances. However, when we say ethnic, it's too broad. So we have to start with our definition of terms. Ethnic, what does it mean? Of or relating to a large group of people classed according to common racial, national, tribal, religious, linguistic, or cultural origin or background. Or in anthropology, we define it as people coming from the same area and sharing the same culture. So which means ethnic pertains to all the ethno-linguistic groups of the Philippines. However, in the Philippine context, we always say ethnic would mean tribal. But there's another word that is related to that, and that is indigenous. Produced, growing, living, or occurring natively or naturally in a particular region or environment. However, indigenous doesn't refer to people alone. Indigenous could refer to other organisms, which may be found living in the same area. But who are the indigenous Filipinos? That is, if we're referring to people. The term indigenous, as used in the Philippines, refers to ethno-linguistic groups or subgroups that maintain cultures due to partial isolation or independence throughout the colonial eras, which means they had not been influenced by Western culture. And that means about 20% of the Philippine population, because the rest, as we know, are the so-called lowlanders, which are heavily influenced by Spanish, American, and obviously multinational as we know it. So when we say, for example, Tagalog, Bicolano, Cebuano, these are the lowland groups. So when we say indigenous, traditionalist groups and the Muslim groups. So again, we have to divide that. Traditionalist or highland dances When you say highland or traditional, these are the typical ethnic dances we have in the Philippines, originating from the indigenous communities of the highlands. So what are the characteristics? May carry strong spiritual undertones. That is because these dances originated from rituals, range from simple mimetic movements to lavish spectacles of highly theatrical elements. The best example of very simple mimetic movements would be those coming from the aitas of Zambales, in which it's actually more or less like 1:1 when it comes to movement. For the highly theatrical, like for example, I think everyone's familiar with Singkil from the Maranao, which is an interpretation of the Enchanted Forest of Dambaran. There's one chapter in the epic called Darangan, which is actually about an earthquake, or shall we say, a princess caught in the middle of an earthquake. Another feature will be highly varied in moods and purpose, depending on the region or community where the dance came from. So there are different kinds of dances, like for example, wedding, festivals, harvests, to name a few. And then these dances are accompanied by singing, chanting, or music provided by indigenous instruments. And most of these instruments are either strings, or we call that in ethnic music is chordophones, or probably percussions, or these are the idiophones, drums, or membranophones. So where do you find the indigenous dances? Luzon Cordillera, other parts of Luzon, which includes the Caraballo, Central Plains, and the Bicol region, Mindoro, Palawan, Visayas, particularly in Negros and Panay, Western Mindanao, that's Region 9, Northern Mindanao, Region 10, Caraga region, Central Mindanao, that's Region 12, the Southern Mindanao and Sargen, Region 11. First slide, obviously that is very traditional. That's from the Isamal. These are the native people of Samal Island, related to the Mansaka. The second slide, that's the Binanog of the Sulud Bukidnon of Capiz and Iloilo. Obviously, that's very Cordillera, that's Kalinga. Look at the G string, because they have a very distinct G string or pahag. The second group of indigenous people are the dances of the Muslim Philippines. Now, do not say Muslim dance, there's no such thing, because being a Muslim means you are a member or having Islam as faith. So there is no such thing as Muslim dance. But we can say dances of the Muslim Filipinos or dances of Muslim Philippines. So obviously these are the dances from the Muslim communities, showing strong link with the Indo-Malayan dance and music traditions, because if you notice the dances, even the costuming really resemble those coming from Malaysia or Indonesia. Indigenous Malay-based with strong Middle Eastern and Chinese influences. Now remember, the use of scarves and fans is obviously of Chinese origin. Even the wearing of the footwear, the beaded footwear. Because the Chinese came to the Philippines very, very much ahead of the Spanish. The Chinese came to the Philippines in about 10th century, and they were trading with the people in Mindanao. Islamic restrictions on mixed dancing are highly evident in many of the dances. Usually there are dances for women, there are dances for men, and if we mix, there is no touching. No, di pwede sa Islam na mahikap. Dances reflect attention to restraint, posture, and balance. And the best example is obviously the dances of the Maranao. Very reserved. Even the smile. Mag-smile naman sila, pero pinugnan. Medyo wag kayo makita ngipon. And obviously, very sophisticated musical instrumentation or accompaniment, the kulintangan or the kulintang, which is actually an ensemble of gongs and drums. So, what are the Muslim areas? Coastal Muslim Mindanao groups, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, Basilan, and the Zamboanga Peninsula. Lowland Muslim groups, the Iliana Bay area, and the Cotabato River floodplains. So this includes the Iranon and the Maguindanao. Highland Muslim groups of Lanao del Norte and Sur. So these are the Maranao. Inland Basilan groups, that's the Yakan community. And the Southern Palawan and the Balabac Island, that's the Mulbog and the Palawano. And there are small groups of ethnic groups that had been converted to Islam, like the Sangir or the Sangil. Originally, they came from the island of Sangihe in Indonesia, the Kagan or Kaagan in Davao, and you have the Kalibugan or the Kulibugan. These are the Islamized Subanan of Zamboanga. So that's the singkil. Notice, walay manok sa ibabaw sa ulo. Because actually in the Maranao dancing, real Maranao dancing, they don't use the sarimanok as a headdress. So bayanihan na mo'y naghatagan na og costuming, no, kaya ang singkil gid sa una, malong raman na sila. And then, ang butog nga nung natungtong ng manok sa ulo. So let's begin by defining choreography. The art of designing sequences of movements in which motion, form, or both are specified. But originally, choreography came from two words, the Greek chorea, which means choral dance, and graphia, Latin for writing. So which means the original meaning of choreography is the writing of dance steps. But now we are more familiar with the term dance notation. Huwag ka na sa uban kitang dance literature. Pero actually, when you say literature, kompleto na with the background and everything. But when you say instructions, from figure 1 to the last figure, we call it dance notation. But originally, that was the meaning of choreography. Now, choreography is the making of dance. But remember, choreography is a very broad term because there is choreography in a wedding march, graduation. There is also choreography in martial arts. So there is, of course, in our area, dance choreography. So we take into consideration the two elements of dancing. Improvisation, which is the creation of movements. And it's not really a problem if you are choreographing on indigenous dances or folk dances because you already have the steps specified. You can only improvise if it is, let's say, modern dance or creative dance. And then how do you make figures? We call it composition. The organizing of movements into figures, figures into a whole dance piece, because in the authentic, shall we say, the original form, indigenous dances do not have a figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. There's no specific start or finish. So you have to really compose. That's why if you're a choreographer, you are also a dance composer. So in dance, choreography is also known as dance composition. Now we all know that choreography is both an art and a science. It is an art because it depends upon you, the choreographer's ingenuity and masterful creativity of improvising movements. Because it requires you to improvise the movements, but as I said, there is actually no problem with folk dancing because the movements are already there. All you need to do is put the movements into figures, creating the entire dance sequences, or probably grouping dances into suites and staging an entire dance production. Medyo bugat-bugat na to. Choreography is also a science because one has to learn, train, and master the principles and skills of creating and staging the dance. Naiuban kay kung makatudlo sayo, choreographer kuno sila. Pero actually, choreographer ang gawas ana. Because do not be contented by just knowing how to teach the dance. You have to train, attend workshops, seminars, or probably do a research. So how do you prepare yourself for choreography, especially if you're choreographing ethnic or indigenous dances? First is one has to make some necessary considerations before attempting dance choreography, and that includes know one's capabilities and interests. So kung dili nimo feel ang ethnic, ay tuga-tuga. Identify a dance material. Dili ta ng sayaw. Ang ngayon ibutang sa stage. Gain some background information on the dance material. Kanigyod. This is very important for us dance teachers. We have to know the culture or the story behind the dance. Plan for the requirements of the dance. The dancers, the costumes, props, and other needs. Dili kay nag-choreograph na ka, nag-stage na ka, and then on the day of the performance, una pa ka nangita og costume. Maproblema taan na. Plan for the staging of the dance. However, I will not discuss staging because I am limited to the topic of choreography. So dancers are to be informed about the story behind the dance. Importante yun na. Like for example, in my case, before I teach dance, figure 1, figure 2, figure 3, I always start with gathering my students, explaining what the dance is all about. Because probably they're just dancing mechanical or technical, but they don't know the meaning of the dance. They have to give the dance an espiritu, a soul, or doon na kinabuhi ang sayaw. How do we let our students give life to the dance? They have to know what the dance is all about. So di kumutuo ka ng itudlo pa sa ang smile and everything. Dili, uy. Importante, nahibaw ang dancers ug unsa na iya gisayaw. So let's go to part 3. Pointers to good choreography, especially of ethnic or indigenous dances. Many simple dances are best left alone in their original form, except when staging is necessary to give them structure. One example, I've seen a real authentic singkil. Ang singkil actually, simple ra kaayo. Sige ra gatuyok-tuyok. No? Sige, lakang-lakang ang nagkawayan. Then I asked the question, when do you stop? They said, kung kapuyon mi. Meaning, kanang makita ni mga singkil, ang nagsugod gud ang choreography, bayanihan. Katong gidala sa Brussels exposition sa una. The bayanihan transformed the singkil into a very beautiful dance. But if you see that in the original form, very, very simple and very slow. Okay, I am showing here 2 slides from the Tigwahanon, Manobos, and and of course the dances of the Talaandig, because I had been with this group from Region 10, because I come from Region 10. I'm very familiar with their dances. Like for example, the Kudlong sa Loray, which is actually courtship, and then the Dugso. I've witnessed a real one, in which there is actually no specific start or finish. I've even experienced a Dugso. They started in the afternoon until the wee hours of the evening, and then I had to return to my hotel to sleep, and then the next day, early morning, they were still dancing, and they were dancing around the altar. So that the dancers will not get tired, the dancers get replaced. Magpuli-puli to sila. And then to keep awake, magsimple sila inom. So in other words, kanang makita ni mga gi-perform nga Dugso, ikuan na i-identify na ang mga steps and then gihimo nga figures so that the dance will become theatricalized and also at the same time not monotonous. But in the original form, wala na. What was like counting dito 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wala sila na. So the dance essence must not be lost in the process of choreography. Ayaw i-mutilate ang sayaw, ayaw i-murder. So for example, retain peculiar formations and distinctive movements. Now, most dances I've noticed, they always do a circle because the circle is actually the most primitive form of formation. And I find this in dances all over the world. That is because originally the dances were not performed on stage. Dances were performed at the center of a clearing and the people gather around. So people or the dancers would just move around, and I've noticed the movement is always counterclockwise. That's why CCW or counterclockwise is sometimes called LOD, line of direction. And you may not know this, but I observed this. Even the coiling of the shell, kanang kinasun, is counterclockwise. And the way how vines climb up a trellis, that coiling is also counterclockwise. And I've noticed that dancers move counterclockwise. Our planet rotates counterclockwise. Our planet revolves around the sun counterclockwise. That's nature. So for example, first slide is the Bindian from the Ibaloy or Benguet. They dance in a circle, moving counterclockwise. So that's the peculiarity. Another would be the Ifugao when they dance. They always have two columns, one male, one female. Maglinya gyud. And then ang magunang dancer ana munay pilang sundon. Then the peculiar movement of the pangalay of tataosog, the movement of the arms, the broken arm movements is actually reminiscent of an aquatic environment. And it's very, very slow. Pero naka-notice ko sa pangalay karon kay murag naunsa na mura mag-hip-hop. It should be retained the very slow manner. So always teach the basic moves. So ayaw pagtudlo nga figure 1, figure 2 dayon, no? Always teach the basic moves. Practice the gestures, steps before putting the dance to choreography and staging. The dancers has to master the basic steps, the gestures and the movements. Labi na sa indigenous gamay lang nga sayop, sipyat gyud. Sipyat gyud na. One example would be the footwork between the tiboli and the blaan. The tiboli, both feet are actually flat. But if you raise the ankle or the heel, I mean, it becomes blaan. But if you observe the upper movements, murag pareho. But observe the feet, lahira. Then avoid the long line, one spot formation, except kung nagline dance ka. No, kay lain masad nga permi na lang usa na sa tubangan, usa na sa luyo. So butangan na to og directions. Try to explore other possibilities of directions. So ay mo paghibong sometimes when we choreograph usab mo reklamong dancers usab ni sir or si ma'am. No, because that's part of experimenting, trial and error. We work on trial and error. So eliminate monotony of movements with an artistic use of range and contrast. So elements na siya of staging. Dili kay 32 counts usar ka figure, another 32 lain nga figure. You can always combine these steps. So that's what we call artistic use of range and contrasts. So let's say, for example, when you make your dancers move forward, it's not necessary that you have to let them all move forward. Some may be moving forward, some may be moving backward, others go right, others go left. So explore various possibilities. So however, this must not be overdone. Naiuban, naka-notice ko nga, kada figure na usab sakit sa mata. According to the late Kuya Mon Abusan, Give your eyes a rest. That explains why when he judged the sinologue several times, the other groups cannot really win, although they appear beautiful, but they don't win because they tire the eyes. Nagsige og dagandagan, and you know what I mean. No, puro lang change formation. Not necessary. So make kani. This is always the last thing I do. Make dramatic entrances and exits. In fact, the entrance and the exit are the most difficult to do when choreographing a dance because you have to make a grand entrance. The grand entrance, parang salida sinipa, establishes the mood of the performance. Para na, paghimo kag libro, paghimo kag nindot ka title, para ang readers interesado nga mabasa sa imong libro, no? Dili kay labay stash kan. So dapat ang entrance sets the mood. And then an exit is also very important. Make it dramatic. Why? Because an ordinary person would not be able to remember everything that has been performed. But the exit leaves a lasting impression on the audience. No, na may kita og dramatic exit. No, na uban may dramatic entrance. So make the exit dramatic as well. Be strict with proper costuming kanigyod, importante ni kaayo ha, daghang sayop uban. Let's say for example, sa Maria Clara nga mga sayaw, agoy ang Fanuelo di mo ka-fold more Girl Scout. So be strict with proper costuming, which includes costume design, color, hairstyles, and headdresses, accessories, footwear. They all go together, or else na usa si mang ana, no? Period dance, like sa panahon karaan, unya gabansiwag ang diverse watch. Non-Christian nga sayaw, nga na eskapularyo, gisuloob sa dancer, we have to be very careful. And also the use of props. Because I've noticed some props are very big. Natabunan ang dancer. Let's say for example, kaya ato mga sample ni. The first slide, that's the kalinga. The original kalinga. Notice the colors. The dominant color is actually red. Sa unang panahon, the kalingas actually were actually the girls were actually bare-breasted. So nakita ilang breasts. They were covered with tattoos. So muna ang uban naka-invento, di man pwede nga mag-topless itong mga dancers. They actually invented the skin tone with the tattoos. And then the kalingas now actually had a blouse, they call it lama. And then it's actually a golden yellow blouse. Parts ilang costume. Contemporary na siya. Because when the missionaries came to the Cordillera, they actually required the girls to cover their upper parts. So na-invento ang lama or blouse. Okay, notice how we translated that into simulated kalinga. Actually, I used skin tone nga basje. And we have to follow proper colors. Next. Okay, obviously that's the Maranao. The Maranao are actually very colorful since they're very conservative Muslims. Everything is covered. Mahimo ato require ang girls nga magkumbong. That's the turban. They want tendong, or tendong is actually the veil. Okay, that's the authentic Maranao. Simulated Maranao. Okay, the special color for the Maranao is the mabaning. That's the gold. So which means if you dress up the bride, not a singkil, don't dress the singkil bride with white. Kaya ang puti, isulob na sa Muslim kung dunay patay. So ang importante, royal color is mabaning or gold. Okay, my favorite group because I had stayed with them for several months and months. That's the authentic Mating Salog from Kitaw-Taw, Bukidnon. Okay, and then I have to create my costumes. simulated matigsalog with their very famous Kudlong sa Loray. I think you're very familiar. But Oliver, familiar ana na magdao guitar. Then the use of the stringed instrument is very, very specific. The Kudlong, that's the instrument played by the boys. The bamboo guitar or zither, that's the saluray, is played by the women. Ayaw i-interchange. Okay, very gender specific ang use, anak. Okay, notice the color. Ang matigsalog combines red and blue with white and yellow as accent. That's why sometimes their costume is called bandera. It actually means flag, no? Because it's the color of the Philippine flag. Okay, Oliver is very, very familiar with this. They're very colorful. Talaandig o Bukidnon. The Talaandig, I think, is the most colorful groups in Bukidnon. The dominant color is red with the feather headdress. Okay, my version simulated Talaandig. Okay. That's the blaan. The dominant color for the blaan is blue. Sometimes the blouse or the albong is a combination of blue and red. And then it is beaded, or sometimes it is decorated with mother of pearl or stipay embroideries or beads. However, tipay is not very easy to secure. So what we did was to use the pearl or the plastic buttons. Simple butones lang. But we have to follow the colors. So as I said, the blouse or albong is blue and red with white mother of pearl or tipay or white beads. Okay, this is the Tidoray of Upi, Maguindanao. Okay, the Tidoray actually has a blouse that mixes different colors. Actually, the costume of the Tidoray resembles those of the Maguindanaon. The only difference between the two is that the Maguindanaons are Muslims and then the Tidoray are traditionalists. Okay, obviously these are the Agusanon Manobo or the Agusan Manobo. The color that dominates the costume is red and black with sulam or suyam, that's the embroideries. Okay, the simulated version. Okay, that's for the costume. However, you can actually have a separate topic on the designs of costumes for presenting ethnic or indigenous dances. Now, very important, dancers must be warned that there are improvements or corrections in choreography and staging while the process is ongoing. We all know as choreographers that even on the day of the performance, there might be some slight changes. So, dili mo reklamo ang dancers anang usap-usap atong hunahuna. So, ang question, are you ready to choreograph? Since the choreography of ethnic and indigenous dances, or according to Kuya Mon Ubusan, is the most difficult choreography because a slight mistake can mutilate the dance and it changes the culture. So we have to be very careful. Now, you younger batches of choreographers, you are now very fortunate because you already have the benefits of the YouTube. in which you can always refer to the YouTube for videos. However, you have to be very careful because some videos actually are presenting wrong dances or wrong choreography. No, so it's just a matter of wise judgment. And you already have a variety of books now or works done by researchers that gives you a lot of choices. Not like during our time. Sa among panahon sa una, my God, no, this gamay ra ang kuan, gamay ra ang books. That's why I was really, in my case, I was encouraged to do my first-hand research by doing ethnography. I really have to go to the area to see the dance. For me, that is the best. So good luck. And actually, you are into a very challenging area of choreography because you are representing what we call as the very authentic culture of the Philippines before the coming of Western colonization. Thank you for listening. Daghang salamat.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Nimor. That was a very informative presentation, isn't it? Okay, so now if anyone has questions, you can type them in the chat box and Professor Nimor will be very glad to answer them. So if you have any questions, so you type them now on the chat box. So there is a lot of information na gihatag ni Sir Nimor. Thank you for that informative topic, Sir Nimor. Okay, so I guess that was it. That was indeed a very fruitful morning to each and every one of us. Diba? So thank you so much to our dear speakers this morning. And at this juncture, let us welcome the beloved PFDS Cebu Chapter President, Mr. Renezar Ferolino, and to be followed by Ms. Thea Ruelo for the Treasurer's Report.
Good morning, my dear Philippine Folk Dance Society Cebu Chapter members and webinar participants. Yes, yes, yes! First, allow me to extend my deepest gratitude for the participants for participating in this professional development webinar. I knew that each one of us is very much busy preparing our different modalities of learning in this new normal. But still, you are here with us today, and it only shows that we are really true-blooded folk dance advocates. And I am glad seeing some of the participants wearing their PFDS t-shirts. No, kanina, itong sana pa nag-open sa mga cameras. So we are truly one PFDS Cebu Chapter family. Thank you. Second, I would like to thank and congratulate our speakers, Professor Ceasar Nimor and Madam Jergen Orias, for sharing their knowledge and time in this noble endeavor. Third, I would like to commend Sir June Oliver Figueroa and Madam Jergen Orias for initiating this webinar. Of course, to the PFDS Cebu Chapter Board of Directors for the unselfish efforts you have extended to make this webinar possible. Special mention to Sir Giovanni Flores. Thank you, BODs. Since we are not able to conduct our annual Eco Folk Dance workshop, we decided to hold this webinar as our way to reach out for you, our dear PFDS Cebu Chapter members. This is to show everyone and to instill in our minds and in our hearts that despite of what we are experiencing now, we are still one in propagating our very own folk dances. Now let me share to you my reports, which is usually presented during the workshop. For the 17th Eco Folk Dance Workshop last July 2019, we had a total of 411 participants, teachers and students, and thank you for being part of it. We had 64 newly registered members and 43 renewed their membership. For the 12 Inter-School Folk Dance Competition, we had a total of 8 participating groups from the elementary and 13 from the secondary. And the winners are the following. For elementary, first place goes to Karkar Central Elementary School. Second place, Bulacau
Jack, nanay, kompleto na na answer ka na.
Community School.
Tanan na video, may answer.
Third place, Valladolid Elementary School. Fourth place, Basak Community School. Fifth place, Tuyom Elementary School. And the best in costume goes to Bulacau Elementary School. For the secondary, first place goes to Hilasio Babao Memorial National High School. Second place, Nangka National High School. Third place, Cebu Sacred Heart School. Fourth place, Karkar Central Technical School. And the fifth place goes to Karkar Central High School. And the best in costume goes to Hilasio Babao Memorial National High School. Next, I am very proud to inform to you, my dear members and participants, that we are now in the final process of our Sept, for the Security and Exchange Commission registration. I personally had the documents notarized and submit it to the SEC office, and our secretary, Ms. Geraldine C, is doing the follow-up. So hopefully, maybe within the month or by October, ma-approve na ang atong SEC registration. And this is one great achievement of our society. As of now, those are the very important reports that I can share with you as how our society is going on. But before I will end my talk, may I have the honor to present the certificate of recognition to our speakers virtually. Sir Giovanni, please. Okay. So let me read the text. The Philippine Folk Dance Society Cebu Chapter Certificate of Recognition is given to Jergen Orias for sharing her expertise as a resource speaker during the PFDS Cebu Chapter Professional Development Webinar on the topic Keeping the Fire and Passion for Folk Dancing Alive Amidst the Challenging Time, held on September 19, 2020 via Google Meet, given this 19th day of September 2020 in Cebu City, Philippines. Signed, yours truly. Thank you and congratulations, Ma'am Jergen. Virtual applause, please. Next. The same text, a certificate of recognition, is given to Professor Ceasar Amirhassan Nimor. Thank you, sir, and congratulations. Once again, my dear participants, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And as we continue to sail the ocean of life in these trying times, may Señor Santo Niño continue to cover his mantle of love and protection. God bless everyone and keep safe.
Thank you so much, Sir Ren. As we are about to end this webinar, if you have any questions with regards to your membership as PFDS member or other queries on our organization, you can turn on your mic to raise your questions. So this would be the time, since we haven't conducted workshops for this year. So you can raise your questions, and for that to do so, you can turn on your microphone.
Hi, Miss Wendell. Good morning. This is Miss Pacifico.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Just want to know if how can we renew our membership?
Okay, so I guess Sir Rene would be very glad to answer that one.
Okay, ma'am.
Good morning, Ma'am Gilma.
Hi, Sir Ren. Good
Since
morning.
we are not having our workshop this year, so freeze ang atong membership. So next ano na ta? Next year pohon if mabalik ta sa atong old norm.
Okay, sige. Thank you, Sir Ren.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So, is there another question? Okay, so na ay question nganhi from the chat box. Hi, dear facilitators. Later this morning, before the session started, you showed some videos. May I ask if you have a soft copy so we could download, or can you provide us links? So how about that, my dear PFDS?
That goes to Sir Oliver and Sir Giovanni. Please answer.
Sir Oliver?
Yes, yes, we will. We are looking for a way to send these files to you. Siguro mga magkuha lang siguro ta. Amo lang sa ning kuno i-compile lang mo tanan ang mga files para ma-send na mo ninyo po through email.
Okay. So she find it daw very useful, especially to those who are not expert with interpretation, which includes her. So, kinahanglan siya mag-rely sa videos from YouTube. So that is what we all is doing right now. Diba?
Maybe, Ma'am Wendell, maybe amo lang ning isodo ko sa Google Drive ng PowerPoint para naamoy mga kuan, ma-review, ma-reference. Hasta ang video, amo lang usa og kuan, so sa Google Drive, and we will email this to you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sir Van. So, is there another question? Is there any questions? And evaluation form is provided, of course, in the chat box. So we are going to place them later. And please stay tuned for the closing prayer and the PFDS March. Okay. So let us
On
give...
ako?
Let us give
I'm
the
on
floor
camera?
to, yes, to Ma'am Thea Ruelo for her president's treasurer's report. I mean.
Wait. Okay, so I hope maputol. Good morning, everyone. We're thankful that once again we are given the chance to meet virtually and experience this new normal setting. September is supposed to be our enter-school folk dance contest, and it's sad that at the same time happy because we have this webinar. So this update of the financial status of the organization will be focusing on the last two major events last 2019, which are the 17th Eco Folk Dance Workshop last July 12 to 14, and the other one is 12 Inter-School Folk Dance Contest. Okay, I'll start with the financial status. Okay na ko, Ma'am Wendell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so regarding the participants, where we have our source of income from membership and other sold items, we have participants as 286 for the teachers and 85 from the students. So all in all, we have monetary is total all in all for the income for that particular seminar is 529,300. Okay, pero but the expenses incurred or we have the honorarium, food, souvenirs from the secretariat, and other expenses. So I think di na ako tagsa-tagsaon kay murag kuan man. So total all in all expenses is for 384,477.98. So from 229 minus 384 something, we have remaining money is 145,222. And since because of the funding, so we withdraw the money from the bank at 100,000 for the preliminary expenses. So all in all, ang nasa money is 245. Since we ato man na iuli sa bangko ang atong gihuwam, so we have the 1,000 again deposited in the bank. So cash in at hand 145,222. So this remains atong tan-aw since the next activity, major activity, which is the 12th Inter-School Folk Dance Contest last September, and supposed to be September is the month of our mao ni atong folk dance contest unta. Sige na lang, wa man ta mahimo aning kuan pandemic. So for the solicitation again, for the income for the sources of income, we have from the officers or from the BOD and other sponsors or tungod sa solicitation and registration. So mao na ni soliciting worth 20,400. The registration is 13,200 from the different elementary category, the secondary, and one from the tertiary. So all in all, we have the money 30,600. The expenses are the following: food and meals, honorarium, prizes and trophies, and others. Okay ra ang food and meals kay gamay-gamay ra. We have bigger, pinakadako is ang prizes and trophies amounting to 93,705 and 4 cents. So, kuanta kanang naatay, di man ni siya deficit, but the 93 expenses minus the 33,600. So ang atong supposed to be makuwang is 60,105, and this is subsidized by the organization. So asam tanangitani. So mo ning diri ni kuha sa atong nabilin nga kwarta, at least gamit from the organization, from the workshop. So minus, so far because of the pandemic, naaman to'y akong ipang report, wala man mahuman ang kanang wapa ko kabdawat sa liquidation nako kay tungod man abtan man tas kuan pag last January man siguro nato nahuman dayon agoy tungod mas pandemic, so wa madayon. So napa sa auditor ang kuan lista and all. So far ang ako lang yung report is we have the money in the bank. Dara atong bank nata sa okay, ito siya kanang Bank of the Philippine Islands na sa may Hungkera extension siguro na Hungkera branch. So we have the money in the bank worth 202,906. Okay, naara. Di man makita, sige na lang. Okay, so far, okay na atong status. I hope maka-proceed ta sa atong another workshop. Hopefully, kung mawa na ning COVID, wag tango na nis Ginoo next year. Okay, I hope at least so that's all for today. Again, thank you very much, everyone. Okay na ko, ma'am?
Thank you so much, Ma'am Thea. Thank you so much. Okay. PFDS family, I thank you so for your participation in this webinar, our very first webinar. So we hope to see you soon as we take the next step of learning, hammering our skills in folk dancing, and teaching folk dance. May this engagement lead us to nurture more our cause in the propagation and preservation of our culture, our folk dances. Thank you everyone for accepting the challenge. This is Wendell Camelio Matos signing off.
My
My beloved,
beloved land,
blessed
blessed with
with
beautiful
beautiful
dance.
dance.
Today
Today
we
we all
all are
are
bound.
bound.
Renezar of love in hand. Rejoice, let
Rejoice,
us
let it
pride. With
rise.
lifted
With
up
a
folk dance
folk
I
dance
gladly
gladly
sing. Preserve and
with
love
the love
of
of
my beloved
my
land.
beloved.
Blessed with
Blessed with
Beautiful
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 land.
land.
Today
Today we all are
you are
bound.
bound.
We enter
We
of
can
our
tell
loving
land.
rejoice, let
Let
everything
it
pride.
rise.
Filipino
never
rejoice.
be.
Folk
Hope
dance
and
I gladly sing.
be
Preserve
Preserve
and
and love
love
of
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 my
my my
beloved
beloved
land.
land.
Thank
Blessed
you, everyone.
with
Blessed
God bless
beautiful
you.
dance. Today we are
are
bound.
thine.
Don't forget the evaluation. Don't forget the evaluation.
Rejoice the heritage pride.
Evaluation time.
Filipino
Kuha yung
rejoice.
certificate.
Folk dance I
Thank
gladly sing. Preserve the love of my being. Folk dance I gladly sing. Preserve the love